We live in a world where words are everywhere. They're on our screens, in our ears, on our timelines. People are constantly talking, complimenting, promising, praising, but the truth is, words are cheap. They don't cost much to say. It's easy for someone to tell you that they care, that they support you, that they'll be there. It's easy to hear, "I believe in you," or "you can count on me." But real intention, real commitment, doesn't live in the mouth. It lives in what people actually do. I've learned this the hard way, not just in my career, but in life. When I was just starting out, people in the industry would say things like, "You're going to be a star," or "We'll take you places." And for a while I believed them. Who wouldn't? Sweet words feel good. They fill your head with hope and possibility. But when the moment came to prove those promises, most of those people were nowhere to be found. And that's when I realized something crucial. It takes no effort to say something nice, but it takes real effort to follow through. See, action is not accidental. You don't stumble into being reliable. You don't just wake up one day and magically become someone people can count on. Action comes from intention, a decision to show up, to deliver, to stand by your word even when it's inconvenient. That's not easy. That takes discipline, character, and authenticity. When someone really believes in you, you'll feel it in how they show up for you, not just when you're winning, but when you're uncertain, scared, or failing. When someone loves you, you'll know it because they'll act out of love, not just say it when it's convenient. They'll make time, they'll sacrifice, they'll tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. That's what separates real people from the ones who just like the sound of their own voice. In relationships, in friendships, even in business, this rule never fails. Anyone can say they respect you. But if their actions don't match, if they interrupt you, ignore your ideas, talk behind your back, then their words are meaningless. I don't care how beautiful a sentence sounds. If it's not backed by action, it's just noise. Sometimes we don't want to see it. We want to believe the best in people. We hear kind words and hold on to them like lifelines. But we have to stop giving people credit just for saying the right thing. Because saying something doesn't make it real, doing something does. I've learned to pay attention to consistency, not just one moment of kindness or support, but a pattern, a rhythm of action that shows someone is intentional about being who they claim to be. That's what builds trust. That's what creates lasting relationships, personal and professional. Not words, not flattery, but repeated, conscious, meaningful action. So the next time someone tells you they care about you, don't rush to believe them. Watch them, observe how they act when they don't know you're watching. Look at how they treat others, how they handle pressure, how they behave when they have nothing to gain. That's where the truth is. Words may be easy, but action reveals character, and character is everything. We all love to be appreciated. It feels good when someone notices your efforts, compliments your looks, or tells you that you're talented, smart, or special. But sometimes that sweetness isn't coming from a genuine place. Sometimes flattery is not admiration, it's a mask, a tool, a carefully crafted illusion designed to make you lower your guard. In my experience, both in the entertainment industry and in life, I've seen how easily people use kind words to disguise their true intentions. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. They'll tell you what you want to hear, how incredible you are, how much potential you have, how they've never met anyone like you. It sounds amazing, right? But often it's not about you at all. It's about what they want from you. Influence, access, validation, control. There's a difference between a genuine compliment and strategic flattery. Compliments come from a place of honesty. They're usually specific, grounded, and balanced. Someone who's truly in your corner will acknowledge both your strengths and your areas to grow. They'll praise you, but they'll also challenge you because they care. Flattery, on the other hand, is all sugar. It's excessive, over the top, and often vague. It's designed to charm you, not empower you. I remember meeting people in my early days who would go out of their way to shower me with praise. "You're a star," they'd say. "You don't need anyone. You're perfect." And it felt good, especially when you're young and still figuring yourself out. But those same people disappeared the moment things got difficult, or when I stopped giving them what they wanted. That's when I understood Their flattery had nothing to do with me. It was a means to an end, and it's not just in show business. This happens in all walks of life, in relationships, workplaces, social circles. Someone might flatter you just to get close, gain your trust, or manipulate your decisions. They might praise you to avoid being held accountable or to cover up their own flaws. It can be subtle or obvious, but the danger lies in how good it feels. Flattery feeds our ego, and the ego loves to be fed even when the meal is fake. So how do you tell the difference? How do you separate real appreciation from a masked intention? You look for consistency. You pay attention to what people do when you're not useful to them. Do they still show up for you? Do they still speak highly of you behind your back? Do they treat everyone with the same respect they give you, or is their kindness selective? You also learn to ground yourself in self-awareness. When you know who you are, when you know your strengths, your flaws, your worth, you become less hungry for external validation. You don't need to be flattered to feel valuable. You already are. That inner confidence becomes your shield. You stop getting swayed by empty praise because you know the difference between being seen and being used. And here's the thing, not all flattery is malicious. Sometimes people don't even realize they're doing it. They want to be liked, they want to please, but that doesn't make it any less dangerous. When we surround ourselves with people who only tell us what we want to hear, we stop growing. We get comfortable in an illusion instead of living in truth. So be kind, but stay sharp. Appreciate compliments, but don't get addicted to them. And most of all, remember this: the people who really love you will lift you up, not just with sweet words, but with honest hearts and consistent actions. That's not a mask, that's love. Respect isn't about what people say, it's about what they do when no one's watching. It's not found in grand statements or elegant speeches. It's found in the small moments, the subtle choices, the way someone carries themselves and treats others. Anyone can say, "I respect you." It's easy to throw that phrase around, but if their actions don't match their words, the words mean nothing. I've learned over the years that real respect is quiet. It doesn't need to be announced. You feel it in how someone listens to you, really listens, not just waits for their turn to speak. You see it in how someone values your time, your boundaries, your ideas. Respect is shown in the way someone treats you when you're not in a position of power, when they don't have anything to gain. It's how they talk about you when you're not in the room. That's where respect lives, not in lip service, but in truth. I've been in rooms with powerful people who used all the right words. "We value your voice. We want your input. You're a game changer." But the minute I spoke up or challenged something, the tone shifted. Suddenly, I was too opinionated or difficult. That's when I realized that their words were a script, not a reflection of actual respect. If someone only values you when you agree with them or when you stay quiet, that's not respect. That's control dressed up as kindness. On the flip side, I've met people who don't say much, but their actions speak volumes. They let you speak without interrupting. They give credit where it's due. They show up on time. They follow through on promises. They don't make you prove your worth over and over again. They see it and they treat you accordingly. That is respect. It doesn't need to be flashy. It just needs to be real. One of the most powerful lessons I've learned is to observe, not just listen. People reveal who they are over time, not through their declarations, but through their consistency. The colleague who makes space for your ideas without taking credit, the friend who honors your boundaries even when it's inconvenient, the partner who doesn't just say, "I support you," but actually shows up for you when it counts. These are the people who understand what respect really is. And let's not forget how we show respect to others. It starts with humility, the willingness to recognize that everyone, regardless of title, background, or circumstance, deserves to be treated with dignity. It's in how we speak to the waiter, the driver, the intern. Respect doesn't flow just upward. It flows outward in all directions. You can tell a lot about someone's character by how they treat people they think they don't need. When you truly respect someone, you don't need to be performative. You don't need to flatter or exaggerate. You hold space for them to be themselves. You celebrate their success without feeling threatened. You give them the room to grow, even if that growth takes them in a direction that's different from yours. That's what mature, grounded respect looks like. At the end of the day, respect isn't about being polite or saying all the right things. It's about alignment between your words and your actions. It's about consistency, integrity, and care. We live in a world where image is everything, where people often say what sounds good rather than what they truly mean. But if you want to build something real, whether it's in your relationships, your work, or your legacy, let your respect be something people can feel, not just hear. Because the truth is simple, real respect never has to be spoken. It's just known. There's a voice inside you that doesn't speak in words. It whispers in feelings, in tension, in stillness. It's your gut, that deep instinct we all have but often ignore. And the truth is, your gut knows before your mind catches up. Long before you can rationalize a situation, long before you gather the evidence or connect the dots, your gut is already sounding the alarm or offering reassurance. We've all felt it. You walk into a room and something feels off, even if everyone's smiling. You meet someone new, and although they're perfectly charming, something about them just doesn't sit right. Or you're offered an opportunity that looks perfect on paper, yet there's a quiet unease you can't explain. That's your intuition trying to protect you or guide you before your thoughts get involved, before your logic starts trying to justify or dismiss what you're feeling. I've had moments in my life where I went against that inner voice, and I always regretted it. I've accepted projects because they looked good on the surface, big names, big money, big promises, even though something inside me whispered, asterisk, this isn't it. Asterisk, and sure enough, things eventually fell apart. It wasn't that I didn't know, I did. I just chose not to listen because logic told me I was being too sensitive, too emotional, or too cautious. But the gut is rarely wrong. It's like an emotional compass, quietly pointing us toward what's right and warning us when something's not. The tricky part is, the mind is loud. It likes to analyze, to dissect, to reason its way through everything. It wants facts and proof. The gut doesn't work that way. It's subtle. It works in energy, in vibes, in signals that don't always make sense on the surface. But when you tune into it, when you learn to trust it, it can save you from a lot of pain and sometimes even danger. Think about the relationships you stayed in too long, the ones where everything looked fine to others, but deep down you knew it wasn't right. Or the moments when you didn't speak up because your mind said, asterisk, stay polite, asterisk, but your gut screamed, asterisk, this is wrong. Asterisk, those aren't coincidences. That's your body trying to tell your brain something it hasn't figured out yet. Trusting your gut isn't about being impulsive or reckless. It's about being aligned. It's about pausing and checking in with yourself before you make decisions. It's about honoring your inner truth, even when it doesn't align with logic or other people's expectations. It takes courage to say, I don't have a reason, but this doesn't feel right. But that courage can change your life. Some of the best decisions I've made didn't come from a checklist, they came from a feeling. A quiet certainty that said, asterisk, yes, this is where you're supposed to be. Asterisk, even if the path didn't make sense at the time, even if it scared me, my gut knew, and every time I followed it, I found clarity, purpose, and growth. We live in a world that teaches us to overthink, to overanalyze, to trust only what we can see. But not everything that matters can be explained. Some truths live in silence, in instinct, in the spaces between thought. So the next time your gut speaks, listen, before your mind tries to talk you out of it, because deep down you already know your gut is your oldest, wisest guide. Let it lead. Love doesn't need sugarcoating. It doesn't need to be dressed up in flowery language or filtered through perfectly crafted texts. Real love isn't about saying all the right things or constantly trying to make everything sound beautiful. It's not about pretending things are always okay or about avoiding difficult conversations just to keep the peace. Love, when it's genuine, is raw, it's honest. It tells the truth even when it's uncomfortable. And that's what makes it real in a world where we're often told to just be positive or to keep things light. It's easy to confuse love with constant sweetness. We think if someone loves us, they'll always agree with us, always make us feel good, always say the things we want to hear. But real love goes deeper than that. It's not afraid of the truth. It doesn't run from conflict. It shows up even when things get messy, because real love, is not about convenience. It's about commitment. I've found that some of the most loving things people have ever done for me didn't feel warm or sweet in the moment. They were hard truths, honest feedback, words that challenged me, pushed me, even hurt me, but they came from a place of deep care. Whether it was a friend who told me I was settling for less than I deserved, or someone I trusted telling me I needed to take responsibility for my mistakes, those moments stayed with me, not because they were easy to hear, but because they were real. And because the people who said them loved me enough not to sugarcoat the truth. Love that's constantly sugar-coated can become performative. It can turn into something superficial, something that avoids depth in favor of comfort. It may feel good temporarily, but it doesn't nourish your growth. It doesn't challenge you to become your best self. It just keeps things pleasant on the surface while ignoring what's brewing underneath. When someone truly loves you, they see all of you, not just the parts that are easy to love. They see your flaws, your fears, your contradictions, and instead of walking away or pretending everything's fine, they lean in. They call you out with kindness, they hold you accountable without belittling you. They stand beside you when you're broken, not because it's romantic, but because they genuinely care. The same goes for how we show love to others. Sometimes we think that protecting someone means sparing their feelings at all costs, but real protection comes from truth. If we love someone, we owe them honesty, not cruelty, not harshness, but honesty wrapped in empathy. That means having the hard conversations. That means saying, I think you're making a mistake, or this behavior is hurting you, or I care about you too much to stay silent. That's love, that's courage. Of course, there's room for sweetness in love. There's space for affection, gentleness, encouragement, but those things shouldn't be used to cover up the truth. They should exist alongside it, because love, in its most powerful form, is a balance. It holds you when you fall and lifts you when you rise. It's soft when you need comfort and strong when you need guidance. So don't fall for love that only tells you what you want to hear. Don't settle for relationships that avoid discomfort in the name of harmony. And most importantly, don't give love that's sugar-coated just to be liked or to keep things easy. Give love that's real, love that sees, that speaks, that stays. That's the kind of love that lasts. And that's the kind of love we all deserve. In a world obsessed with noise, it's easy to think that being loud is the only way to be seen. Social media, self-promotion, constant updates everywhere you turn. People are announcing what they're doing, who they're with, what they've accomplished. And sometimes it feels like if you're not posting it, it doesn't count. But the truth is, real value doesn't come from how loudly you talk about yourself. It comes from what you do when no one's watching. From the consistency, the discipline, the quiet grind. Build your value in silence. Let results speak. There's something powerful about moving in silence, not in secrecy, but in focus. When you're not distracted by needing applause, you can actually hear your own thoughts. You can refine your craft, stay grounded, and make room for growth, because growth, real growth, isn't glamorous. It's repetitive. It's often lonely. It's waking up early to chase a goal nobody sees yet. It's failing, learning, and trying again, not for a post or a headline, but because you believe in what you're building. When you work silently, you take your ego out of the equation. You stop creating for attention and start creating for purpose. And that's when your best work happens. You're not motivated by external validation. You're driven by internal fire. That's where legacy is built. In the quiet, consistent moments where no one is clapping, but you keep going anyway. I've learned that the people who talk the most about what they're doing often have the least to show for it. And the people who are really doing the work, they're too busy building to brag. Their results do the talking. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth if your work proves it. You don't need to chase validation if your success commands respect. Silence is a kind of power. It keeps people guessing. It protects your process. Not everyone needs to know your next move. Not everyone deserves access to your journey. Sometimes the more you share, the more pressure you invite. Expectations pile up and suddenly you're performing instead of progressing. But when you move quietly, you give yourself the freedom to fail, to shift, to evolve, without the burden of public judgment. Building in silence also teaches you patience. You learn to value the process, not just the praise. And that makes your wins so much sweeter, because you'll know that every step you took, every sacrifice you made wasn't for show. It was for the goal. And when you finally succeed, people won't just hear about it. They'll feel it. They'll see it in the way you carry yourself, in the quality of your work, in the results that speak louder than any post or promise ever could. This doesn't mean you have to be invisible. It means you don't need to shout, speak when it matters, share when there's something meaningful to say, but let your consistency, your professionalism, your excellence be the loudest part of your story. You don't have to prove yourself every day. You don't need permission to be great. Just do the work. Keep your head down. Stay focused. When the time is right, your results will rise to the surface, and they'll say everything you've been quietly working for. So don't underestimate the power of silence. In a world full of noise, it's the quiet ones who are often doing the most. Let your results make the noise. Let your success be your story, and let your silence be the strength that carried you there.